Hey, honey, take a look over there. Is that? No, it couldn't be.
I don't know. Let's ask. Excuse me, are you Adam Graham?
The very same. And this is my old-time radio snack wagon.
Welcome to the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon, where we serve up a bite-sized portion of old-time radio. And now, here's your Snack Wagon host, Adam Graham.
Today's snack is being prepared in Orlando, Florida. This week, we're serving up a look at another great American who was named after last week's subject, George Washington Carver. To do that, we're visiting the series Strange as It Seems. Strange as It Seems took the opposite path of John Nesbitt's Passing Parade. The Passing Parade was a radio series that became a series of film shorts. Strange as It Seems was a series of film shorts that became a radio series. Before Strange as It Seems was either of those, it was a series of news cartoons drawn by John Hicks. Regardless of the format, Strange as It Seems was dedicated to telling unusual real-life stories. Strange as It Seems came to radio in 1934 and aired off and on until 1937. Some of these runs were 15-minute shows that would be perfect for our podcast, and perhaps one day we'll play one of them. But the series also played in half-hour slots, and these programs had multiple segments, which also perfect for cutting up into snack-sized audio. So here is the Strange as It Seems segment on Booker T. Washington from September 21st, 1939.
From the files of John Hicks comes the amazing but true story of one of America's best-known scientists. It begins in the grim days of Reconstruction, immediately following the war between the states. The story begins in the plantation house of Moses Carver near Diamond Grove, Missouri. The time, the late 1860s. In the great plantation house, Moses Carver questions a Negro hired hand.
Now, let me get this straight, Joe. You say there was a band of those men, and they came to our land just after sundown last night.
Yes, sir. That's the truth, Mr. Carver.
Burned down my barns, will they?
Then after that, they run off all the stock down the road, and then they come and took Mary and the baby off with them.
You saw them take Mary away?
Yes, sir, and the baby.
What'd they run off with Mary for, Joe?
Plain meanness, I reckon.
What's that paper you got in your hand?
It's got writing on it.
Here, let me see it, Joe.
What'd it say, Mr. Carver?
Those scoundrels. Say they'll give up Mary if I give them that chestnut racehorse.
That's a powerful good horse, Mr. Carver.
So, go out in the pasture and catch that horse. I'm going to give it to them.
Moses Carver delivered the racehorse, but the kidnappers never returned Mary. Nothing more was heard of her, but her baby, sick and near death, was returned, and the Carvers did what they could for the infant. Nursed it back to health, had it baptized, gave it their own name, and the name of a very famous American, George Washington. Then one day in 1863, on the Missouri plantation, the young colored lad, George Washington Carver, timidly enters the study of his benefactor, Moses Carver.
Hello, George.
Mr. Carver, can I talk with you?
Sure, boy. What's on your mind?
Well, sir, I'm most 14 years old now, and I can't neither read nor write.
George, don't tell me you want to learn to read and write.
Yes, sir, Mr. Carver. I don't want to be a field hand all my life.
I see. Well, I got an old blueback speller I'll give you, and when the words get too long, I'll help you if I can. Now, how's that?
Thank you, Mr. Carver. I'll do my best for you.
Young George Washington Carver mastered the old blueback speller. Still, his thirst for knowledge was not satisfied. An insatiable thirst and curiosity that impelled him to leave the plantation fields.
Of course I'll teach you. But 8 miles is a long way to walk to school every day.
8 miles ain't no distance at all when you got things you got to learn, ma'am. You just start teaching. I'll be there.
Hey, George, what you gonna do when you get to high school?
I reckon I'll go to college.
College? Where you gonna get that much money?
Same as I'm doing here in Minneapolis. Wait for it. Maybe wash dishes, maybe truck floor.
George Washington Carver,
Yes, sir.
having fulfilled the requirements laid down by the Board of Trustees, Iowa State College is happy to present to you the degree of Master of Science.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Studying by day, working by night, young George Washington Carver obtained an education few of his race possessed in the year 1896. He became associated with Tuskegee Institute in Alabama. One day during the World War, Booker T. Washington, founder of the college, entered the laboratory of the scientist.
My secretary said you wanted me to come down to your laboratory, Dr. Carver.
Yes, Mr. Washington. You remember the government report you showed me a short time ago?
You mean about the cotton crop being destroyed by boll weevil?
Yes. Then we discussed the wheat shortage.
Yes, that's right.
Our people here in the South are really facing starvation. No cotton this year, no food.
It looks very serious, Carver.
Well, I've been experimenting here, and I think I've got something. Here, taste this.
Huh?
Oh, you like it?
Yeah, that's good. That's very good, but I don't
That's
see...
sweet potato bread, Mr. Washington.
Sweet potato bread?
Yes, and that's what's going to feed our people during this war. We're going to plant sweet potatoes on the cotton field and use sweet potato in bread instead of grain. And I'm working on other uses, too. I'll find a market for our crops.
But with the harvesting of the first large sweet potato crop that was to be used as a wheat substitute, George Washington Carver's troubles really began.
Dr. Carver, the dietitians want to know exactly what food value is in this new bread.
Dr. Carver, we doctors are wondering if this bread is really digestible.
Frankly, Dr. Carver, the government doubts that it is possible to bake bread from sweet potatoes. That's why I've called you to Washington.
As Dr. Carver answered all criticisms, satisfied dietitians, physicians, and the United States government, the fame of the Negro scientist grew. Then one day, from another scientist laboratory in New Jersey, comes a telegram.
To George Washington Carver, Tuskegee Institute, Tuskegee, Alabama. I followed your work. Would be honored if you would join me in experiments at my laboratory. Name your own salary. We'll pay your expenses up here to consider proposition. Signed, Thomas A. Edison.
To Thomas A. Edison, Menlo Park, New Jersey. Thank you very much. My people need me here. There's no need for me to waste your money by coming north to say no. Signed, George Washington Carver.
Refusing the offer of Thomas A. Edison, George Washington Carver continued his work and experiments. Then a few months later in his laboratory, Booker T. Washington watches Mr. Carver as he pours a muddy solution from a test tube.
This, Mr. Washington, is an analysis of the soil on which we grew the sweet potatoes. Every bit of mineral has been exhausted from this soil by the sweet potato.
Well, what are we going to do?
We must issue a bulletin telling the farmers to grow peanuts.
Peanuts?
They'll revitalize the soil, and it's the only thing that will.
But man alive, Carver, peanuts aren't even listed as a crop on the government report.
They will be, Mr. Washington.
But what are people going to do with the peanut crop?
I'll have to find that out, Mr. Washington. I'll have to find a use for the peanut.
Again, Mr. Carver found the answer to the farmer's problem in his laboratory. And strange as it seems, today all the world knows that George Washington Carver's experiments with the peanut have been of enormous value to Southern agriculture. Dr. Carver is right here in the studio with me, and we'll let him tell his own story. Dr. Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Habrilla. And it's quite an experience to sit back and have your life story acted out for you.
Oh, but it's a life story with a lot more chapters yet to be written, Dr. Carver.
I certainly hope so, Mr. Habrilla. But I'm not as young as I once was. I was somewhere in the 70s on my last birthday.
Dr. Carver, I understand you've raised the peanut to new heights.
Well, the peanut industry is a $60 million business now. At Tuskegee, we've developed more than 200 products from peanuts. We've made everything from axle grease to synthetic rubber. And we're finding out new uses for the peanut constantly.
What are you working on now, Dr. Carver?
The finest use we've been able to make of peanuts is in the treatment of the after effects of infantile paralysis. That's what I'm working on now. Massages with peanut oils has worked miracles in some cases. There is a lot of work to be done, but I feel we're on the trail of something really important.
Thank you very much, Dr. Carver. You have just heard Dr. George Washington Carver, one of America's leading agricultural scientists, a man who has devoted his life to help give the agricultural South a new outlook on life. This great scientist is not ashamed of the fact that he does not birth date, and strange as it seems, he was once traded for a racehorse.
Welcome back. A truly amazing story about a remarkable man. And it should be said that the story of George Washington Carver was fairly well known at the time. In fact, I found about half a dozen different old-time radio programs that talked about Carver. In addition, the Moody Bible Institute would feature him in a 23-part serialized telling of his life story for their series Stories of Great Christians. But what makes this clip stand out is us getting to hear from the great man himself. Unfortunately, Carter didn't have many years left. He passed on January 5th, 1943, after a fall. In addition to being a world-famous scientist, Carver was a musician and, more relevant to the point, an artist. When Carver was confined to bed, after taking a fall, he got well enough to sit up and paint, and he died painting a Christmas card with the words, "Peace on earth, goodwill to all men," which fits the way that he lived his life. His epitaph reads, "He could have added fortune to fame, but caring for neither, he found happiness and honor in being helpful to the world." It's time for me to close up the old snack wagon, but don't worry, we'll be back with another serving of old-time radio goodness before you know it. If you want to enjoy some of our longer-form podcasts, you can feast away at my website at greatdetectives.net. Your emails are also welcome at adam@snackwagon.net.
The Old Time Radio Snack Wagon comes to you from Boise, Idaho. Your host is Adam Graham. Sound production is by Rhines Media, LLC. You can listen to past episodes of the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon as well as connect on social media at our website at snackwagon.net. Email suggestions for episodes to adam@snackwagon.net. This has been the Old Time Radio Snack Wagon.
Until next time, goodbye.